The 1-2 again. Inside. Hits on the ground, left side, Witt dives, smothers it on the grass, to his feet, throw to first. Oh, he got him! What a play! Bobby Witt Jr. He is spectacular! The Royals come from behind and beat the White Sox 8-5. And who else than Bobby Witt Jr.? Gordon in the air to center. Back at the wall. This game is tied!
Alrighty, welcome to another episode of Crown Talk, your go-to podcast for everything Kansas City Royals. I'm Jared, that's Kevin. The Royals just cannot be stopped. Kevin, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing well. Like you said, they cannot be stopped. 5 out of 6 on this road trip against two pretty good AL East teams, including, and then just kind of seeing the bombs away performance today from the Royals hitters. You got to feel good. I mean, considering where we were 2 weeks ago, we had a good week last week, but now we got an even better week this week. So really a lot of excitement going on in Royals Kingdom.
Yeah, no, I agree. We'll get into that Orioles series and all the home runs here in Game 3. But let's start with the Tampa Bay Rays. Royals come out, absolutely just dominate the Rays. Like the Rays didn't even look like they were in the same kind of competitive realm as the Royals in this series. Royals got the sweep. Won Game 1, 3-1, Game 2, 3-0, and then Game 3, they really turned on the offense and won 8-2. For you, what were some of the big key moments of this series for you?
I think, again, just kind of the pitching continuing to really excel. Yeah. Again, the Rays were a really hot team coming into this. I think they had won 5 in a row before the Royals series, and obviously the Royals sweep them. The Rays offense is very streaky. I mean, you got hitters like Christopher Morel and Junior Caminero and Yandy Diaz, who are very good hitters, but they can be kind of streaky. And the Royals did what they had to do in keeping them at bay. We saw a great debut from Noah Cameron, who filled in for the Cole Reagan start. Kind of a command was a little off, but, probably amped up. But, a no-hitter through 6 1/3 innings is quite an MLB debut. And we've seen some good MLB debuts like Erceg, having one big one too, and then kind of amounting to nothing. I think Noah Cameron's going to have a little bit better career than Erceg is going to have. So I think they just take care of business, and it was great to see.
Yeah, and I mean, Game 1, not a lot to say there. They won 3-1 against the Rays. Michael Lorenzen was absolutely incredible in that game. 6 innings, 1 earned, 4 Ks. We talked about it on the last podcast of he's giving you everything you want out of this 5th rotation. We'll get into the Orioles series. Not as great of a start there, but again, just dominant performance by the pitching staff. Zerpa, Erceg, Estevez just dominated, of course, in the 7, 8, 9 role there. But going to Game 2, I want to kind of elaborate a little bit on the Noah Cameron start. And we talked about the 5 walks, and it's got to be an adjustment for guys, right? Coming from AAA, where most of those guys are probably swinging at those pitches that are just right. You're kind of nibbling on the corners probably a little bit more in AAA because you're going to get the swing and miss, or you're going to get the umpires to kind of give you the call. But now you're in the big leagues, and you got to figure out a way, okay, maybe I'm not going to get those calls. Maybe these guys aren't going to chase the pitch. So I think it's kind of a learning process. But the fact that he was able to kind of navigate around those 5 walks, really limit the damage, I think that's impressive in itself. And you kind of talked about how he got sent down, but I think we do see Noah Cameron, next time there's an injury, next time there's a guy who needs some rest, Cameron's going to get that call.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, we see this a lot with debuts, right? Guys are amped, and so command is always something that can be kind of spotty. Cameron did what he had to do with his slider. I mean, that pitch was very effective. I believe it had over 100. I think it was about 102 TJ stuff plus, from what I recall. So, I mean, he had one good pitch working for him. That's a positive sign. And I think that, once he kind of irons out some of the command issues with his fastball and some other pitches, like you said, it's a big adjustment. It's one thing that when you have AAA hitters like Harold Castro or something like that, that are AAA, and they're probably going to be swinging at those pitches. Nothing against Harold Castro. I am wearing my Omaha Storm Chasers hat after all. But, it's but facing against a team like the Rays that are a quality team, it's like, they're not going to chase as much. So I think he's going to work on some of those things. And I agree. I think we're going to see him back in Kansas City before we know it.
Yeah. Yeah. The only other thing I want to touch on in game 2 is Pasquantino went yard off of Drew Rasmussen. The power has really kind of started to show up. He's starting to drive in more runs. He had 2 RBIs in game 2, 2 RBIs in game 3, and he hit a double as that as well. And it seems like he's starting to turn it on and turn that corner. And I think we've talked about it probably ad nauseum on this podcast about how like this lineup needs somebody else besides Bobby and Michael doing something. And Vinny Pasquantino's that guy. I think he needs to be the guy who is also producing in this lineup, because in reality, you don't know where you're going to get every day from Drew Waters or from Kyle Isbell or from Michael Massey at this point, Mark Canha. Like all these guys are just kind of almost not replacement level players, but they're just guys you just can't rely on every single day. And Vinny's got to be that guy.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have your solid core of hitters, right? And it's you have Bobby, you have Salvy, right? You have India, who I thought had a pretty good series against Tampa. I had him as one of my third star of that series. But Vinny's got to be the guy. And we're starting to see since the month of May, he's a lot more locked in since it became May. The power's there. The plate patience is a little bit there. He might be a slow starter. I mean, this might be something that we might just have to get a reality check with Vinny, is that he might just be a guy who starts slow. But if he has to be, if the Royals have those playoff aspirations, he's got to be the number 3 hitter. Like, you can't replace a guy to be a number 3 hitter on the trade market. That just doesn't exist unless you're willing to give up tons of trade capital.
Yeah.
So they need Vinny to kind of step up, and I think we're starting to see it.
Yeah, and we'll get into kind of Jac Cags as we kind of talk about the minor league players of the month and the players of the month. But like, that's a guy who can come up and probably be your 5th guy, 4 or 5 guy. And so like, if they can get Vinny to step up, and then next thing you know, you got Cags, like, you don't have to make that trade at the trade deadline to really get that big power bat. You can go and get like a 6 or 7 hole type hitter, like a Taylor Ward or somebody. And so I think like if Vinny can step up, if you have some confidence in Cags that he can produce at the major league level, like the deadline becomes a lot easier to go shop for players.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's a lot easier to kind of fill on the edges on the trade deadline than try to fill in your core.
Yeah.
If you're trying to fill in your core, it's like you're probably you're not in good shape. So I think the fact that Vinny's stepping up, that India's stepping up, that Salvy's starting to get it, that's good, because now you can kind of worry about the fringes of the roster rather than like the meat of the roster.
Yeah, and you think about even like the Royals World Series championship, the trade deadline, like they didn't really necessarily get fringe players. They got Zobrist and Cueto, who were probably 2 of the top for our top available players at the trade deadline, and the hauls were big. Like, I know none of the guys banned out for the Reds, unfortunately, in the Johnny Cueto trade, but like they were all top by 5 guys in the system. And the same thing when you looked at the trade for Zobrist with the Oakland A's, like Sean Manaea became a big league starter for everywhere he's gone. And he got paid this offseason because he's been a reliable big league starter. So like, you had to give up pieces in order to get those big time guys.
Right. And that not only requires you to give up those pieces, that requires you to continually stock those pieces too. Yeah. And I think that's what we saw with Dayton Moore, is that he didn't stock up fast enough. And, teams can do that, like the Red Sox, the Yankees. They can stock up really quickly because they got the money to do it. They got the budgets. They're getting those international talent. They're able to spend it in the draft. So the Royals, it'd be nice that we don't have to spend too much, so we can continue stocking. And then for those really big deals, then maybe you can go a little bit more all in.
Yeah. Getting back to the Rays series, do you have anything else? I know game 3 probably should get into a little bit. But what are the thoughts you have on that, or final thoughts on that Rays series?
Yeah, I just think it's a sign of the Royals being able to perform on the road. I mean, they did not have a good road series when they went to New York and then Detroit. So the fact that they were able to go against a pretty average to good team on the road and take care of business, I think was a good sign.
Yeah, no, I agree. Some things we should probably get into two, right? Salvy, I believe. Which game did he get hurt in? Was it the Orioles game or was it one of the Rays?
No, it was the last game in the Rays series when
Yeah, that's
when
what I
he
thought.
split. Yeah.
Looks like Biggio pinch hit for him. So like there's some roster movement we saw. We'll get into kind of the other news here before we go into the Orioles series. But like Luke Maile got called up for that. I believe James MacArthur was put on a 60-day IR in correspondence with that move. When Cameron got sent back down, they needed a reliever. Taylor Clarke got called back up. And Alec Marsh got put on the 60-day IR. So, and then Tyler Tolbert got sent down. And who was that for? I can't remember.
Well, I think that was to clear space for Molly, and then
That's right.
also, yeah. So because again, they needed to make another roster move.
Yeah. So they needed a roster spot and a 40-man roster spot
Yeah,
at the same time.
A lot of movement that's been going on. So
don't really have a lot to add on Luke Maile and Taylor Clarke. We'll get into Clarke a little bit because he made his debut on Friday night against the Orioles. But I like Luke being on the roster. Like you rely less on Salvy having to catch, which is kind of nice because we've talked about the defense kind of taking a step back behind there. And a combination of him and Freddie Fermin can kind of, or you can get more plate appearances for Freddie, right? And just DH Salvy. It feels like that having those three doesn't really put you in much of a roster crunch.
Yeah, and I like Luke a lot. I think he's a Rays guy, so he was drafted by the Rays and he had played some years, so he's familiar with Paul Hoover. He's familiar with Matt Quatraro. He's kind of like an Austin Hedges kind of type, like a poor man Austin Hedges, which is quite a bar if you think about it. But he's got some budding power. He's dependable behind the plate.
Yeah.
We'll see how long he sticks around. I don't expect him to stick around long, but if he had, we'll talk more about it, but if he keeps having performances like he does today, maybe the Royals think about, maybe we do keep three catchers and maybe have Salvy more as our DH, because they don't really have a DH either. So it's not like Salvy would be taking away DH bats from somebody right now.
Yeah, and I mean, if you think about if Freddie keeps performing, right? Like he's hitting 283 or was hitting 283 going into the Orioles series.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's not like Luke's going to play every single day. He'd play that same role of being a backup catcher and just relieving Freddie when he needs to be relieved. Like at some point, they got Salvy for one more year, right? After this, out of the contract, they're going to have to find a place for him, and it's probably not behind the dish anymore.
Right. And I think, and again, we all know what Salvy's value is. Salvy's value is in his bat. And I know that the intangibles and his leadership, I know that's a really big thing, but when we talk about on-field play, it's like they need to preserve his bat. They need him to be a 25 to 30 home run hitter. The only way he's going to do that is if he stays fresh, stays healthy. And I think more at-bats at DH makes sense for that to happen.
Yeah, I agree. We'll get into Taylor Clarke's debut as well because we're going to talk about Game 1 of the Orioles series here. Michael Wacha threw well, 6 1/3, 3 earned, 7 hits, got the loss. Royals bats just couldn't get anything going. Massey was the only guy with hits beside him, and Freddie Fermin were the only guys with hits. Both went Massey went 2 for 4, Freddie went 2 for 3. Just got absolutely shut out by Dean Kremer, and Dean Kremer wasn't really punching guys out either. He only struck out 2 over that 7. So they only had 4 hits in that game. It was kind of concerning thinking that they were going to go back to the old offense. But what are your thoughts on this Game 1?
One thing I have noticed about this Royals team is that there's they do have slow starts when they are starting a series. It seems like if you look at the Colorado series, for example, they were losing in that that Game 1 of that Colorado, then they came back. Houston, they won 2-0, but they only scored 2 runs. Detroit, they lost 6-1 in the first game of the series. Cleveland on April 11th, they lost 7-0. And so that kind of made me think is that the offense just really struggles to get going when the first game of a series, especially when there's travel involved. You look at their last road trip between Cleveland, New York, and Detroit. They only had 2 runs combined in those 3 first games. And then, so that's a little concern. Then Tampa Bay, they did have 3, but they had that off day on Monday, which did help. So they seem to be okay when there's an off day, but when it comes like that straight from a series day, that seems like they start off a little cold. So I think that's just my biggest takeaway because, again, Massey and Freddie were the only 2 that got hits and nobody else did. So I'm wondering that if there's maybe something that they're thinking about or doing to help with that prep, with that transition from series to series where there's no off day.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. You can kind of see the struggles, and I don't really have much to add to that first game. Just nothing really happened. They lost 3-0. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
pitching wasn't bad, hitting just didn't show up. I kind of end the story for the first game. Going into game two, now that game was a lot more impressive. Kris Bubic dominated 5 innings, 4 hits, 3 Ks. I believe that Q took him out on 72 pitches. I know I saw Royals fans were like, "Oh, why is he doing it?" I mean, it's early in the season, right? And this is Bubic's first time back in the rotation. I kind of get it. Like, they were already up at the time they took him out 2-0. I get that it's still a close game. Luckily, they got the 2 insurance runs in the 8th inning, but you need him all year long. Like, I kind of get having him at a lower pitch count and just let him go 5.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. Plus, you had that hour rain delay, so I mean, it's like regardless,
Yeah.
that was throwing off both guys. I mean, both Sagano and him were kind of thrown off. I mean, Sagano only threw 79 pitches. He
Yeah.
went 6 innings, 79 pitches. So it wasn't like either guy like win a lot. So so and I agree, like rain delay, first year pitching. You got a fresh bullpen. Just use your guys that you have. So again, they used Daniel Lynch, who had a solid outing. Lucas Erceg mowed down, and then John Schreiber touching up to 95, 96 miles per hour. That's something we haven't really seen from John Schreiber at all in a while.
That's going to be the jump. I mean, he was averaged about 92.4 last year. I believe now this year he's averaging 93. But if he can hit 94, 95, that's a massive difference for Schreiber. But this guy's he's posted a 1.88 ERA this year. He's been absolutely dominant for the Royals. And I think that's another reason why you feel comfortable taking Bubic out there, right? The bullpen has been very, 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 very good. It's kind of hard to talk about. Like, everybody's like, "Oh, Erceg and Estevez," but like, Lynch has been good. Schreiber's been good. Zerpa's had his moments. Like, he's been good. Cruz has showed that he can be good out of the bullpen. Like, they got guys and dudes, and it doesn't stop. And there's guys in Omaha who could probably come up and also participate in this bullpen. Like, Evan Siska's done it already. It's just awesome to see. And I think Schreiber deserves a little bit more credit. And it's like, he got a lot of flack last year, but he was also like being the 9th-inning guy when he should be like a 6th or 7th-inning guy.
If Hunter Harvey comes back healthy, this bullpen really has just a lot of depth. I mean, Schreiber's already filled in that 7th-inning role, spot closer role. So I mean, there's a lot of depth right now that we really haven't seen from this Royals bullpen. And like you said, you got a guy like Lynch who can go multiple innings too, and that's nice, right? It's like you could have Lynch go a couple innings, which is perfect for this scenario that we had, where it's like, you know what, let's preserve Bubic. They're still struggling against lefties right now, so let's give them something similar but different, because Lynch is not as much fastball heavy as Kris Bubic, and it works. I mean, Lynch got through 2 innings, only allowed 1 hit, 1 walk, no runs, had a strikeout, and he's got a 1.10 ERA this year. So, I mean, a lot of weapons that the Royals have in the bullpen that Matt Quachero couldn't say maybe in 2023 or even in the first half of 2024.
Yeah, and I mean, let's talk a little bit about Tyler Clarke too, who made his debut in this game. Look absolutely dominant. I mean, he was getting 33% whiff rates in this game, which is like, it's kind of cool to see in some sense, because like, this is a guy who the Royals had some success with and kind of turning him around. Wound up trading him. He comes back on a minor league deal after kind of struggling last year, posted a 5.95 ERA. But every time you watch him, man, like, the fastball velo is really good. He's averaging 95.7 miles per hour. Again, early in the season, he's only had 2 appearances, but he's always had stuff. Like, the fastball slider combo has always been really, really good. He goes to the changeup a little bit more, but it's almost like you kind of want to see him just try to take a step as being a 2-pitch guy with a fastball and slider.
Yeah, I mean, his slider, I mean, his changeup has always rated kind of poorly, and so and that's always a pitch that I'm kind of surprised he utilizes. But his slider has been really effective this year already. 66.7% whiff rate on it, 50% put away rate. The slider has always been his pitch. Even in 2023,
Yeah.
when he had a +5 run value on his slider, he had a 32.3% whiff rate, 24.5% K rate on it. The problem is his other pitches. And like you said, simplifying the approach, just kind of saying, I'm going to be a slider fastball and maybe throw the changeup once in a blue moon. And, he's a perfect middle innings guy. He's a perfect mop-up guy. The problem was in 2023, we had have him in high leverage outings because we had no closer because we traded Scott Barlow and we're like, okay, Carlos Hernandez can't be the closer. Let's try Taylor Clarke. And that went disastrous. But, in middle innings, in the 6th, 7th innings, it's a 1 to 2 run game. Clarke can handle that role. And so I think that was a really shrewd pickup by the Royals. They obviously know him. Sweeney knows him. So that's kind of nice too, is that they're like, hey, we can kind of just pick up where we left off.
Yeah, and he's got a track record of success with the org. So it's like you got a depth piece there that actually works. Other things I'll mention about game 2, Biggio went yard. Didn't expect that to happen before, like Michael Massey and everybody else. Vinny also went yard too again in that game. So he's just been showcasing the power like we kind of talked about. Anything else you want to mention about game 1 or game 2, I mean, the Orioles-Royals series?
Yeah, I think obviously we saw the shutdown of the pitching, but the opportunistic hitting, in there, Cavan Biggio kind of coming off the bench and, or not off the bench, but still hitting a big home run. That we're kind of seeing, we saw that in that series in game 2 is that we're starting to see some of these guys kind of step up in big situations. Biggio was kind of the guy in game 2. We saw Freddie Fermin kind of has been stepping up. And I think that's what's really been really huge right now. And that's why we're seeing this team winning is because, we've complained about we need somebody else. And now it's just like, well, internal guys are kind of doing the job right now. And that was the case last year. It's just happening a little later, but it's better later than never, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it just kind of maybe took some time to get everybody to gel. Because we look at today, we're recording on Sunday night. This will drop Tuesday, but 7 solo home runs, man. Like this team was last in the Major League Baseball in home runs, and they had 7. 2 from Michael, 1 from Bobby, 1 from India, 1 from Pasquantino, 1 from Luke Maile out of nowhere, and then 1 from Michael Massey. So Michael Massey got himself on the board as well. Did Renfroe hit one in this game
No,
too?
he had a double.
Yeah. And so Renfroe is the
only one
one for that one at this point. Even Luke's got you, Hunter. You gotta step it up.
I know.
But offense just stepping up in this game, and they picked up Michael Lorenzen, who was like visibly frustrated in the dugout. I think he threw his glove in the trash can, so he might need to buy a new glove at this point. But he went 4 2/3, 7 hits, 5 earned, 5 Ks, 4 home runs. So not his best outing. Kind of what do you expect from him out of the 5 role? Like he's gonna hit those bumps in the road, but the offense, man, just picked them up, and you have to love to see that.
This was a really gutty win, and we're kind of starting to see that more from this team, especially since their Colorado comeback win. It kind of like I would say pre-Colorado, this team really struggled to like come back. It seemed like once they were down, they kind of were like down for the count and for the remainder of the games. And, we've seen some spunk, and today was just it was just kind of a heavyweight fight where like the Royals would get a home run and take the lead, and then the Orioles would come back, and then the Royals would take the lead again, then the Orioles came back, and then kind of once they got to the bullpen and and hitting those back-to-back home runs off Yennier Cano, who had 0 runs allowed going into this outing, and then hitting back-to-back jacks off of him. That I think it just sucked the air out of the stadium. And that's what the Royals need to do. They need to be able to come back when hey, maybe the pitching's not coming through and have guys step up. And that's something that what made that team really special last year was kind of like this never say die. We saw like in the Mariners game, for example, when they had that huge deficit, they came back. They had a lot of games where they came back in late innings. So we're starting to kind of see that now. And I think that's really huge because yes, we know that this team needs to improve offensively. Yes, we need some more help, but you got to have the core guys lead in the victories and lead those comebacks, and we're starting to see that a little bit, which is really exciting to see.
Yeah, I agree. It's been awesome just kind of watch the offense just click in that game. Well, I would say watch, but thank you, MLB.TV, for your blackouts. I did not actually get to watch this last game. I was watching on game day and listening. So I got to listen to how cool this was, but did not get to see anything.
Because you live in D.C. area, right?
Yeah, I'm in Maryland.
Well, I guess then like so that's just always so dumb when you have like when you're like blacked out to watch because you can't watch Nationals either, right?
No, Nationals, Orioles,
So
done.
I
The
think
only
if you
reason
like
I could watch yesterday's game was because it was on Fox.
Fox, right?
Yeah. So like I got to watch one of the 3 games this weekend. But no, it was and then the kind of the bullpen too also picked up Lorenzen, right? Like Steven Cruz got him out of the jam. Zerpa gave up a run, but
Yeah.
he still kind of struggled. But then Erceg dominated, of course. And then Taylor Clarke just showed up, didn't even save the situation, but he still goes out, 1 inning pitched, 1 hit, 1 strikeout. So it's like those are the things you need when your starter has the struggles. Like you need the offense to step up and you need the bullpen to step up. And they did both of them in this game.
I think there's something to be said of like Lucas Erceg and kind of these big games, especially in Baltimore.
Yeah.
It seems like Lucas Erceg owns Baltimore and Camden Yards. I mean, it's you think about it. He closed out both games of the wild card last year. He didn't allow a run in each of these games. Like, I'm sure that for Orioles fans, they just have a lot of nightmares of Lucas Erceg just kind of coming in and shutting them down. And he goes against their best hitters, right? It's like he goes against, he mowed down Henderson last year in the playoff. That's what's awesome to see is that in these big moments, we have guys that we feel confident that we can go to.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny because he's got 11 holds on the year this year.
Right.
Like that's insane. That's almost better than being a closer because he's coming out in like basically every fireman situation, like the situation you need a fireman, and he's dominating with a .86 ERA.
Yeah, in fantasy, like he is like a safe holds league like god.
Yeah,
because it's like he always comes in, he always gets like the holds. But if you're in a saves league,
you want
like he kind of kills you. Like, but it's but yeah, like you said, he's just like such a unique reliever, which I think is kind of how Q runs his bullpen. It's like I don't care about roles, or I care about roles to a point. Like obviously, like Estevez is the guy, but the fact that he can like kind of plug Erceg, like you kind of like this role for him better than if he was just a traditional closer.
Yeah. Just in terms of final thoughts on the week, I mean, if you're going to bounce back from a 6-game losing streak, this is the way to bounce back from a 6-game losing streak. Like, just absolutely go on the road too, right? I think Waleski was telling us in the chat, he's like, I'd hope they go 10-6 or something on the road. And now you're like, they're going to do a lot better at this point because they're just winning every single game. They got the White Sox and Red Sox next, which we'll get into after. But yeah, I just think overall, it's just you're starting to see the team gel, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And it's just incredible to watch this team like perform. Like everybody counts them out. They went from like a -24 run differential to a +1 within a matter of this streak. So the offense is there. It just was gone for a little bit.
Right. And I think this Orioles series win was really crucial because I think both the Royals and the Orioles are kind of like we're in the same position. Orioles have been disappointing. Royals were kind of disappointing. Mm-hmm. And I think if the Orioles had won this series, that would have been a very big momentum boost for them. But now, after this, you kind of wonder if there's going to be some changes now. I mean, if you think about the Orioles, you're, I think, 13-19 right now, and it's like you're looking up in the division. And I know it's still a long season. I know you have Zac Eflin coming back, and and with that, or sorry, 13-20. So, but there was a lot of hype for this team, and there's been hype for this team the last couple of years, and you can't afford to be, taking steps back in a division as tough as the AL East.
Yeah, no, it's interesting to kind of see what everybody will be doing over the next couple of months. But we do want to get into players of the month. We're in May now, so we want to get through some of the April players of the month. We'll start. Let's start with. Do you want to go low A to MLB, or do you want to go MLB down to low
A? MLB to low A.
Okay.
Yeah.
First, we got both of us picked the same guys here: Bobby Witt Jr. and Kris Bubic. So your player and pitcher of the month are those two guys. I mean, it's for obvious reasons. Bobby was just absolutely incredible. No one else was hitting in the month of April. So I think that's one reason why he's got the player of the month. Yeah. Kris Bubic absolutely dominated. Like we kind of talked about this on one of our first couple of podcasts where like you might have another ace type pitcher with Kris Bubic, and he outpitched Cole Ragans. He outpitched the entire rotation, and it was just awesome.
Yeah, I don't think you can really argue. I mean, I think it was well-deserved. I think if Cole Ragans was healthier, maybe like he would have competed. But, Cole kind of finished off the month kind of tough because of his injuries, and Seth kind of started off the year slow, but he's been looking good. But I think Kris Bubic, the consistency was there, and Bobby, he was the only one hitting. But so he's got to get the award.
Yeah. Don't have much else to add on the MLB guys. I really kind of want to dive more into some of the minor league guys that we don't talk about too much all the time. So we're going to go to Omaha, Storm Chasers. The player of the month for you was Cam Devanney, and then I had Nick Loftin. So Cam Devanney had 12 games this month at 38 at-bats, but he had 5 doubles, 3 home runs, 11 RBIs, 4 walks, and then slash 395, 457, 763 with a 1220 OPS. Absolutely insane. Have a month. Nick Loftin played in 20 games, 7 doubles, home run, 5 RBIs, 23 walks, slash 294, 473, 441, 914. I think I would have given it to Devanney if he had played more. The injury kind of, but I mean, man, he had 6 more RBIs than Loftin, so I think he could be right that he should be the player of the month.
Yeah, and I think I can't discredit what Loftin's doing, but I just think that Devanney showed some kind of upside there. And again, I understand going Loftin, and I went back and forth. Initially, I had Loftin, and then I changed it. But I think there's something there with Devanney, and I think there's some upside there. I'd like to see him get an opportunity. I don't know if it will be in Kansas City, but I don't think Royals fans should be sleeping on this guy by any means.
No. And there's been talks about him like coming up at some point too. So if he can remain healthy, like that'd be great. Loftin has really kind of turned it on too as he's gone into May. Now he's slashing. I think he's up to 300, 454, 467. So the power's still not quite there. He's never going to be a big power guy, but he's got 9 doubles, 2 home runs, 11 RBIs. I think he's still what we've looked at. He's still hitting the ball on the ground too much. But you look at the struggles of Kevin Biggio, and you kind of like, okay, well, do we see Devanney or Loftin here in the next month or so?
I think it's possible. I mean, Loftin, we know his plate approach. We know that he's going to be patient. We know that he's going to be disciplined. The issue is going to be like the exit velocity and the batted ball approach. Will that transition? It sort of transitioned his rookie year in 2023. It didn't transition at all in 2024. I think probably the answer is in the middle. And so that I think obviously like Loftin is the safer floor player here, but I for upside, even though the floor is lower, I kind of like Devanney there. That's why I kind of chose him. Yeah,
no, I like that pick. We're going to our pitchers of the month. So I picked Noah Cameron, posted a 3.22 ERA, 22.1 innings pitched, 15 hits, 8 earned runs, 8 walks, 27 strikeouts, a 1.03 whip. You picked Andrew Hoffman, which I actually love this pick, and I can't wait to dive into this one. He posted a 2 point. I was struggling between Cameron and Hoffman at first.
Oh, yeah.
He posted a 2.84 ERA, 12 2/3 innings pitched, 4 earned, 4 walks, 23 Ks, just kind of dominating in this new bullpen role. And like we kind of talked about the depth of Royals' arms right now. Hoffman is now one of those guys.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that I'm finding really remarkable about the Royals pitching development is they kind of like seem to wait a long time to like move these guys to the pen. But once they do, it seems like they thrive. We saw this with Daniel Lynch. We're kind of seeing this with Jonathan Bolin as well, who looked really good in his one outing, this year in the majors. And, Hoffman is kind of the latest guy to move to the bullpen, and it really suits him. I mean, like you said, the 4 walks to 23 strikeouts, and I think now including May, that's up to 27 strikeouts and 4 walks. That's pretty incredible. I mean, that's some really good command there. And again, it's like I know a lot of people were kind of upset that Taylor Clarke got the call over Andrew Hoffman, but we have some relievers on the fringes right now. We got guys like Chris Stratton, that we're not sure how long he's gonna last, but Hoffman could be the next guy to get a spot on the 40-man if he continues pitching like this. Yeah,
and I think the other thing the fans need to think about too with Hoffman is like Clarke's got the bullpen experience at the big league level, right? Like Hoffman is still learning to be a reliever. So he's dominating. Now he's up to a 2.08 ERA, 1.10 whip, 27 Ks, like you mentioned, over 17 and a third. And it's like, those are great, but you probably want to give him more time to get comfortable with the role. Like, just make sure that he's ready to go before you just throw him in the big leagues while you're trying to continue a winning streak. They probably like, okay, Clarke, we've utilized him before in the bullpen. We know he's had success in the past. Let's get him up here. We need somebody until like Bolin or somebody else is ready. And it just seemed like the better move at the time.
Right. Excuse me. And you need experience, right? And and like you said, Hoffman's still learning. It's possible, like I could see him being ready in August. And I know that sometimes as baseball fans, we want things to happen right away.
Yeah.
But we're obviously seeing Clarke as just a fine option, right? And you don't have to burn anything too with Clarke, because it's like Clarke is who he is, and if he's not good, then you can always just say, all right, we'll part ways with him. But Hoffman, if you start to jack with him going up and down, that has an effect, and that's something that we don't want to see.
Yeah. No, and I agree. And it's kind of the same thing with Noah Cameron. He's really kind of proved he can pitch in AAA, and I think he had more experience to get that rotation spot over someone like Luinder Avila, who's really struggling in Omaha. I don't have much to add on Noah Cameron. Like we talked about him at nauseam earlier. So going to move on to AA here. So for players of the month, I had Peyton Wilson, and you had Jac Caglianone. I don't think you go wrong either way here, but the numbers were absolutely insane for Peyton and Jac. Peyton had 8 doubles, 2 home runs, 4 triples, 19 RBIs, 13 walks, 8 stolen bases, /392, 505, 689 with 1194 OPS. Cags mashed baseballs as well. 6 doubles, 4 home runs, 23 RBIs, 12 walks, 295, 375, 500 / with an 875 OPS. Both guys absolutely dominated. Peyton Wilson makes me really excited because this is a guy, if this holds, like this is a massive development in his game. He's a guy who's kind of always been kind of a fringe prospect, hung out in the 15 to 20 range, 10 to 15 range in the prospects list for the Royals. Had a really, really bad year last year where he slashed 228, 338, 380. Still bopped 14 home runs, 19 doubles, 3 triples. But if he's going to now hit at this pace and hit over 300, that is a massive development for the hit tool.
Right, and I think we've all heard about Peyton Wilson. I mean, he was an Arizona Fall League guy. He's always had he's had some kind of sleeper hype, and then he just never really kind of puts it all together to where you say he's a top 10 prospect. He's obviously got off to a great start in Northwest Arkansas. He earned the call up rightfully to Omaha. He's spent a couple seasons in Northwest Arkansas. He's adjusting, but the one thing with the Royals is they always seem to get a lot of these guys, right? They get these guys who are pretty polished. These guys that, probably outperform their tools in some cases. And, and sometimes they're able to find success at the next level. Maybe Peyton Wilson's that guy. It's like a post-hype prospect that finally is able to settle and really lock in. I think that would be a huge success story for this Royals hitting development team. They've obviously done really well with their high-profile guys, but the mid-profile, it's kind of been a little bit of a mixed bag. So hopefully kind of Wilson can kind of do that and turn things around in Omaha, maybe make his debut or be added to the 40-man roster at the end of the year.
Yeah, I love that. Cags, I know we've talked about him a ton on the pod, man.
Right.
It's easy to give him player of the month because unlike I'd say Wilson, unlike Cags, is not hitting balls at 115 plus miles an hour every single time.
Right.
The polish of the bat on Jac Cags, I think, really kind of gives him a step up to be a candidate for player of the month.
And I think you have to consider that the hype, right?
Yeah.
This guy had so much hype in spring training, in the draft, and it's he's handled it. He's handled it, and again 875 OPS in April. His OPS now is up to 938 after a heck of a weekend in Springfield with Cody and Gold and all the 96.5 guys there. It just seems like there's a lot of pressure for this guy to fail, and he just kind of continues to step up. And that's very Bobby-esque. That kind of seemed what Bobby did in the minors, was man, you got all this pressure here. And like Bobby, he struggled when he first debuted after he got drafted. And so there was a lot of concerns can he handle this? And he is handling it. So that's why I kind of chose him as player of the month. It's yes, Peyton Wilson had the better stats, but nobody's really expecting anything out of Peyton Wilson. Everybody's expecting the world out of Jac Caglianone. And now he's just been I can handle AA, and probably a call up to Omaha is coming real soon.
Yeah, I agree. Springfield Cardinals don't have terrible pitching. Got some of their top pitching prospects like Tekoa Roby and Bryson Mott's down there. So he's doing it against high caliber competition, at least from the prospect standpoint in the
Right.
minor leagues. Going to the pitching, like, man, like the development has just been so fun. Like Henry Williams this year, 2.35 ERA. This is the guy I picked. 23 innings pitched, 19 hits, 6 earned runs, 26 strikeouts, 1.05 WHIP. You picked Chazz Martinez. Like, this is insane for a reliever. 0.73, 12.1 innings pitched, 7 hits, 1 earned run, 1 earned run in the entire month, by the way. 5 walks, I think 13 strikeouts. Talk a little bit about Chazz, because like he's someone I don't know a ton about.
Right. So 17th round pick in 2022 out of Oklahoma. So again, yeah, a lot of reminds me a little bit of like Evan Sisk, not necessarily in his pitching mechanics or anything, but just of his profile, low round guy, college guy. But you know, you look at his numbers, it's really solid. He's always had last year, he kind of in first year in Quad Cities, 61 strikeouts to 35 walks, 1.44 WHIP. So he was kind of figuring it out. Now it's 16 strikeouts to 5 walks. In 2023, in low A, he had 86 strikeouts to 31 walks. I mean, the guy is just, he's a reliever, right? And I think that's his upside. But I think there could be a sneaky arm here with a variety of different stuff that could really kind of maybe outperform his tools in the sense. The Royals seem to have success with developing these lefty types and getting them to move through the system. Yeah. And that's why I thought Chazz Martinez is really somebody that sticks out. I think he's obviously somebody who's going to matriculate to Double-A soon. But again, you look at the profile of a guy like Evan Sisk, could be a lot of similarities to that.
Yeah, no, I love that pick. Guy I went with was Henry Williams. Right. This is the guy that the Royals got from the Scott Barlow trade with the Padres.
Correct. Yeah.
He was a top prospect. I believe he was 10th on their list in 2023 for the Padres. He's got an above average fastball, above average slider. Fastball, it sits like in 94 to 95. Sometimes tailors off to like the 90 to 92 range. But he dealt with a lot of injury issues, which I think might have been some of the reasons why the velo took a step back. But if he's back, like, man, that's fun. Like I believe he had Tommy John surgery already, but he's also had arm soreness, forearm strains popped up. It's one of those things where it's like, I get excited about it, but I'm trying to temper expectations given the injury history. But like, man, if he's healthy and like could be on a Cole Reagans type path, not saying he's going to be Cole Reagans, but like finally finds that health. That's awesome for a guy like this. Like, I think he's 25 years old. They're probably slow playing it with him because of the injuries, but I think he's a guy you see in Omaha pretty soon as well.
Actually, he's 23, so he's still pretty young. He had a 3.68 ERA in high A last year. Still had some pretty decent numbers for a starter. 21.8 K rate, 12.6 K to walk. But he's improved every year in the Royals in the system. So he kind of struggled initially in San Diego. Then he moved to low A in Colombia, improved his ERA from 5.74 in San Diego to 3.38, 3.68 last year and 2.10. He's a big arm, right? You look at him, 6'5", 200 pounds. A lot like a Jonathan Bolin in terms of size. This might be kind of, the Royals, this is a sneaky pickup. You got a guy like Scott Barlow who you're like, we're not going to keep him anyway. It's like you get a high upside arm, and that was kind of one of the things was this was an arm that was more projection than kind of like stats. So if you're not really following like the scouting reports or watching film on these guys, it can be really easy to dismiss a Henry Williams because you can say, 5.74 ERA, this guy sucks. But then it's like you watch the film and you see the development, then you realize like, oh, hey, there's an actual dude here. So I think, he's been really awesome to watch in this first month.
I agree. He's been a ton of fun, and hopefully he continues that through May, which would be awesome. Going on to high A, player of the month for both of us. I picked outfielder Eric Torres. You picked shortstop Danny Vasquez. I don't have a ton to talk about Eric Torres. He's a guy I've been following kind of since he's found success in the Dominican Summer League and the Arizona Complex League. Struggled a little bit in his first full season. Doesn't strike out a ton though. Has a lot of speed. Got a lot of stolen bases. Just doesn't have a ton of power. Like he's not a guy who might even hit 5 home runs. I think his max is 4 at this point. He could probably grow into some, and so maybe you could get maybe 5+ home runs out of him. But he's more of like a speed, toolsy outfielder type. But he slashed 404, 485, 491 with a 976 OPS, 5 doubles, 7 RBIs. Like just kind of a exciting guy to watch. See if he takes any kind of steps in his development. The guy you highlighted, Daniel Vasquez, slash 266, 366, 367, 733, 4 doubles, 2 triples, 9 RBIs, 13 walks. Vasquez, we all know, was a highly touted international sign for them. I believe he got one of the bigger signing bonuses that they've had. Has struggled a little bit to kind of come into his own. It reminds me a little bit of kind of the path that Humberto Arteaga was on, like another guy that got like over $1 million, wound up kind of being a 4A type player. There's probably more upside with Vasquez, but what do you got on him?
Yeah, I mean, I think, to be honest, a lot of the profile is pretty similar. I think both the players we chose are very similar. Not a lot of power. There's a lot of tools there. Very fast, very athletic. I think Torres probably is a little bit better than Vasquez in terms of the speed department. So I think Torres has a lot more upside there. I think Vasquez probably has a little bit more in the projection in terms of like the power department, though he hasn't really shown it so far. So that's why I kind of went with Vasquez. I think you could flip a coin. I mean, obviously Torres has put up the better numbers. I still like Vasquez's profile a little bit more just because I think he has the size and build to really project into something. And I kind of talked a little bit about him last week too. It's like, I think there's a Maikel Garcia profile there. Mm-hmm. I think he needs a little bit more time. I think he needs to stay healthy, but I think there's a profile of a guy who can play multiple positions like Maikel Garcia.
I love it. Love that pick. Moving on to the Quad Cities arms. You could probably have picked anybody in the rotation at this point.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, Mazzucato dominated, Felix Arande dominated, Logan Martin dominated, Hunter Patterson dominated. Drew Beam maybe doesn't have the ERA, but he still posted a .99 whip and had a 3.20 ERA. So like you probably could have gotten away with at least assigning any of these guys pitcher of the month. We went with Hunter Patterson for me, 1.86 ERA, 29 strikeouts, 6 earned runs, 10 walks, 29 innings pitched, 6 earned runs, 10 walks, 19 strikeouts. Mazzucato, 1.27 ERA. This is a guy that probably should have gotten it. 21.1 innings pitched, 3 earned runs, 9 walks, 18 Ks, a .80 whip. Absolutely absurd. What do you got on Mazzucato here?
I mean, I think, he was kind of a guy that had fallen a lot, right? Yeah. Like in this offseason because there was concerns about the velocity. And then we saw him in the spring breakout, like pumping 92, 93, 94. And then all of a sudden we're like, oh, baby, let's get back on that Mazzucato train. He's produced. His command is a lot better right now. Walks have always been an issue. If you're looking at where he's at right now, I mean, walks are still kind of an issue, 23 strikeouts to 16 walks. But, I mean, he's striking out 23 batters in 25 innings and has only allowed 10 hits. So, he's at least getting the Ks and he's at least avoiding the hits. Again, we know his breaking stuff is awesome, but it's just kind of the fastball and the command of that is the important thing. But I think just he's producing. I think he's probably going to be heading to Double-A at some point since he's repeating Quad A right now, or Quad Cities right now.
Yeah, the only thing that concerns me about him, I know you kind of talked about the Ks, is like he went from like having a 12.58 K per time to now he's just in the 8s. So I think that's kind of like, I'm wondering where that drop off came from. Like it happened in 2024. So it's not just like it's something new happening in 2025. Just curious, like what maybe has caused that. And so that's something I wish we had like data on these guys in the minor leagues so we could kind of see what the trends are. Guy I went with was Hunter Patterson. Also a guy, this is my concern with him too, is he's not striking out a ton. He only struck out 19 in 29 innings pitched. 1.86 ERA, kind of went through those stats earlier. But this is a guy they took in the 5th round out of Central Florida. I know they were pretty high on him. He's got decent stuff, but it's nothing that's going to, like, as you can kind of tell by the strikeout rate, not going to put people away. But an interesting arm, lefty, and it's kind of cool to see him have some dominance here at the high, especially after he Really kind of struggled last year to make that adjustment to IA. He posted a 5.75 ERA. Just couldn't get the what he needed done on the mound there. Struggled with the home runs, struggled with the walks. Walks are still kind of an issue this year. Strikeouts have taken a dip, but man, he's absolutely dominating.
Yeah, and again, I think and that's just kind of the MO of a lot of Quad Cities pitchers. I think there's just a lot of development that's happening. Ben Kudrna is another guy who has a high ERA, but he's racked up a lot of strikeouts. So it seems like the Quad Cities guys, it's like you're seeing some of these tools that are really like stand out. And I think, really like at the end of the day at high A, it's about development probably first of all. So like stats are important, but they're not everything. So that they're probably working on things. They're working on pitches. They're working on like plans of attack. And so, I'd like to see kind of in May how the guys like Pattinson and Mazzucato and Kudrna, how they progress, in May.
Yeah, no, I love it. Moving on to the last players of the month, and I'm actually going to switch mine to yours because now that I dove into the stats a little bit more, I believe you are right. It should be Derlin Figueroa getting the player of the month. 4 doubles, 3 home runs, 15 RBIs, 10 walks, 15 strikeouts, 2 stolen bases, 313, 391, 475 slash with an 866 OPS. This guy is absolutely dominating. And this is the guy that got back for the Ryan Yarbrough trade. He's now playing first base. Like, I don't know. I was kind of sold on the bat before he came over from the Dodgers because he was absolutely raking for the Dodgers in the complex league. Then came over and did the same for the Royals. Struggled last year, but man, he's untapped something this year.
And I'm always curious by a lot of these guys, and you see like a lot of the guys, especially DSL guys who come and they struggle like their first year in Colombia. And then we kind of forget about him. We kind of say, oh, this guy, like whatever. And then we forget that these are 20-year-olds playing like full season single ball. So, that's always an adjustment. And Figueroa like wasn't all that bad if you look at his stats. I mean, he had his BABIP was only 263, last year. So that obviously like deflated a lot of his numbers, but he still hit 13 home runs. He still stole 15 bases. And now he's kind of more locked in. He's cut the K rate from 22% to 15% while improving the walk rate by 1%. If you look at his line drive rate, it's up from 17.5% to 27.9%. So, he's seeing the ball better. He's hitting the ball better. The tools have always been there, right? Like you kind of said, when we saw tape of him when he was acquired, it was like, whoa, there's a lot of people. And again, this was kind of far-fetched, but a lot of people are saying there's some Yordan Alvarez kind of potential here because Yordan came from the Dodgers organization before he went to Houston. So I don't think that's a pretty high bar, but but it's like you can kind of see some of the tools that are kind of similar when you watch Derlin play.
Yep. I love it. We're going to stick with that one. Moving on to pitchers. We both picked relievers here. Well, the Mason Miller's gotten 1 start. I don't know if it was like a piggyback type situation, but you went with Elvis Novas, who posted a 1.54 ERA, 11.2 thirds innings pitched, 2 earned runs, 3 walks, 16 strikeouts, 1.03 whip, just dominance. I went with Mason Miller, 1.02 ERA, 17.2 innings pitched, 2 earned runs, 7 walks, 23 strikeouts, 1.08 ERA. And no, this is not the same Mason Miller with the Oakland A's.
Yeah, they're different hands. So like Mason Miller's a lefty for us. So
yeah, and he doesn't throw 100 miles an hour.
That's true. Yeah,
I think he's like low 90s.
Yeah, I mean for us, I think both these guys are kind of older guys for their levels. I mean Novas is repeating low A for the 3rd time, so it's he's only 22 years old, but he's a guy that is a Dominican signing. So. He's been doing so. He's good. I mean, I think he's probably going to be making a move to high A pretty soon. And Mason Miller, I know, is a college guy who's 23, and he's putting up numbers he should put up in low A ball.
Yeah, just 2 dominant relievers. Probably see them not in Colombia for much longer.
No, I don't think so.
That kind of wraps it up for the players of the month. Any final thoughts on the upcoming series? We got the homestands, 4-game series against the White Sox, 3-game series against the Red Sox. What are your predictions record-wise for this week?
I foresee, I know the White Sox are the White Sox, but I do think this White Sox team is a little bit better than last year's rendition. I mean, I think the White Sox beat the Astros today, which means they took 2 of 3 from the Astros over the weekend. So I'm kind of hoping that the Royals, kind of building on this momentum, they don't come out flat. They have the starters that they need to go in this series. They have Cole Reagans coming back on Monday. You got Bubic, you got Lugo, you got Walker going in this series. So, I think at least taking 3 or 4. Obviously, I want a 4-game sweep, but I'm just going to stick with 3 or 4. And I think taking 2 or 3 from Boston will be really huge. Boston's kind of reeling a little bit right now. They lost Cassis, with a freak injury. He's out for the year. They're 18-18. They probably should be better. But I know the Red Sox have had our number at times at Kauffman Stadium, and there's going to be a ton of Red Sox fans because
they travel.
Apparently, like everybody from New England is like in Kansas City, or people are just bandwagoners. I just hope that the Royals. I think this could be a trap series if they don't come ready, but hopefully they do, and they can take at least 5 out of the 7 games this week.
Love it. Yeah, I'm going White Sox sweep, and I'm going Royals will take 2 or 3, even though I want to say they're only going to take 1 against the Red Sox.
I could see that. But the Red Sox are kind of hurt in terms of their pitching. So it'll be interesting to see. I think if we look at it, I think we'll see a Giolito return to Kauffman maybe on Sunday. So that'd be kind of fun to see Lucas back. He's kind of had to come back from all these injuries, so it'd be kind of fun to see him back at Kauffman this weekend.
I love it. Well, that kind of does it for us. Not a ton left for final thoughts here. Getting ready for another week. Hope the Royals can kind of continue the momentum. But we'll be back next Tuesday as well. So until next time, go Royals.
Go Royals.